Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of Chats with Brown Skin Lovin. My name is Andrea Thompson, and I am the host of this episode in this series. And today we are doing this episode in celebration of Mental Health Awareness Month. If you didn't know, it is May, and so we want to take some time to talk about mental health, mental wellness, and how important it is. So my very special guest today is Miss Sherri White. And I've actually known Sherri for about 10 to 11 years now. So I'm so excited to have her on. I didn't even realize it was that long, actually. I had to count back, like, wait, because I met her when I was in college. So yeah, it's been about 10, 11 years, and she's excellent at what she does. She's very skilled, very experienced. And I wanted to have her on today to give us her professional insight on how we can really cope during these times, because they are crazy times. So we want to just make sure we're taking care of ourselves. And just a little bit about Sherri. She is actually a marriage and family counselor, and she also is a certified life coach. So make sure, if at the end of this, I'm going to share her information. So if you need support, she's there for you. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So there are 3 common themes that I've been noticing within myself and others, and then as far as what we've been dealing with emotionally and mentally. And I kind of broke it down to like 3 subcategories. So the first one is feelings of guilt. The next one is feelings of disappointment. And then the next one, feelings of distress. So I want to dig a little deeper into each of those topics, because I know for me personally, the first one, guilt, it has been heavy on me. And I know some people may be thinking, guilt, like why would you be feeling guilt right now? But for me, I'll explain. So a lot of us, due to COVID-19, a lot of people have lost their jobs. Some people are not being able to pay their rent, feed their children. Literally, they were out of work and they didn't have a plan in place because it was so sudden. And part of me feels bad because I have been blessed to still maintain my job. I wasn't furloughed or anything like that. However, there are feelings of guilt because I feel like in this season of being home, working from home, I've been thriving in my workplace, with my business, and in my personal life. I've been growing by doing studies and like personal development. And I just feel like I'm coming out of this in such a better state. However, there are other people who are experiencing the exact opposite. And it's like sometimes I talk to those who may have lost a job or those who may be struggling, and I'm almost timid to share how good this experience has been for me, just to slow down and focus on, my betterment and development. Yeah. I say that in front of them because I know they're going through so much. So I just wanted to ask you, like, how do you process through feelings of guilt like that?
It's a tricky thing because you don't want to be offensive to other people, but you also want to be able to celebrate your milestones or your accomplishments and things like that. And I think you really have to gauge the temperature, for the lack of a better term, the temperature of the space that you're in or the person that you're talking with, and just kind of see where they are, because sometimes when we're talking to our friends or connecting to them, especially nowadays, sometimes they're reaching out because there are things going on and they just need to release. Sometimes they're reaching out because they just want to talk and catch up and stuff like that. So I think it's important to determine exactly, kind of where's the conversation going, and do a check-in. Hey, how have you been? That's something that's been pretty common with me and my girlfriends. We check in. How have you been? And the therapist in me naturally goes to, are you sleeping? Are you eating? Are you moving? Are you drinking water? Are you taking showers? So I think part of that statement of gauging the temperature, check in with them first and see where they are. And I think in those moments, we are less apprehensive to share or to overshare. And there's this thing that I do with my middle and high school clients called Rose and Thorn. So when we do check-ins, I'll ask them, what's been your rose for the week? Like, what's been sweet? What's been good? What's been something that has excited you or grew you. And then the thorn is like, okay, where was the challenge? Where was the hard stuff and things like that? And depending on which one they lead with first, that determines the direction of the next part of our conversation. The guilt side of that, it's, me. And, I tend to be very honest about things. Don't take on what's not yours. You have to be very intentional when you're reaching out. We all have those friends or those family members that when you call, there's always something, there's always an issue, there's always drama, there's always a need. And then you have those friends where there's that good balance, and then you have those friends where it's like, let me check in with it, but we're not that close, so you have different levels of engagement that you operate from, but you're not responsible. I'm not responsible for job loss. I'm not responsible for this pandemic that we're all under. And it sounds almost callous, but if I take on everything around me and I take on all of that anxiety and depression and stuff that other people are carrying, then guess where I'm going to be? I'm going to be in that same spot, So it's important to find the balance when you're having these conversations. It's important to know, you have those moments where there's days where you don't want to talk about certain things, or, you just want to talk about fashion or TV or food or whatever. You don't want to get deep. So I think the temperature check, the rose and the thorn is a good way to kind of see where that dynamic is going. I think it's also important that if you have friends that reach out that are unemployed or struggling financially, be able to offer resources. If you know of something local, if you know of food banks, if you know of places that are providing financial support and things like that, share that information with them. If you feel safe enough and protected enough, offer, hey, I'm cooking Friday. I just wanted to cook a casserole for, there's ways we can do things to show people that we're there with them and we care about them, but that their situation and ours are different right now. And there's nothing wrong with being proud of accomplishments right now. There's nothing wrong with being very grateful and very gracious and blessed and understanding that you're working, and that you're still employed, even if it's a pay cut or things like that. We have to count our blessings, so that comes back to the responsibility that we have, to make sure that we're not, I'm working and, just kind of really dismissing that, because all of these things could change for all of us in a heartbeat, and so that's something that's important to remember. And that goes back to that place of balance. So I would say, there's one thing to have empathy and to have care and concern for people that you love and care about. And I think we should all come from that spot. But I don't think we should carry weight that doesn't belong to us, if that makes sense. And be okay with saying, you know what, I can support you and empathize and understand your weight and your burden that you're carrying. But internally understand that you can't carry that as your own, because that will be too much. Got to have balance.
That's so good. That just makes me, when you say count your blessings, I think it was like a week ago, I was doing work at home and I was just irritated because the type of work I do, I work with youth, and since they've been home distance learning, it's been hard to reach them. And so I found myself like frustrated, like, why won't they answer? I'm just here to help. And I was like complaining about my job. And I was like, you know what? At least I have a job. Like, at least I have a consistent flow of income. So that like snapped me right out of it, because I was like, dang, like I seriously do need to count my blessings, because some people in our same company, different department, are not working.
Right.
It shook me. I was like, okay, you need to get it together and be grateful. And then I just kind of snapped out of it. But that kind of leads me to like disappointment. Because like at work, we can have different kinds of disappointments. But when it comes to our personal life, I think it's a whole nother level. So I've had friends who are planning weddings. I turned 30 this year, so I had a trip planned, canceled.
Right.
Like, just all these different plans we make, right? And suddenly they're just all canceled. How do you advise, like when you're meeting with your clients and if they've gone through a really significant disappointment, like what are some things we could do to process that disappointment and to kind of just take it for what it is and keep going forward?
One thing when I start working with clients, and the majority of my clients are women, but teenage girls. And so trying to convince them that the sky is not falling and that when they break a nail or have a breakup or the football game is canceled and they were all ready, it's like you have to hit like a huge reset button to just like bring them back in or whatever. So one thing that I tend to start with when I start client work is understanding that disappointments are going to come and failure is always an option. Because we tend to, and there's a generation of kids, I have a daughter that's part of that generation, and there's an entire generation of children that I have come into contact with and have watched struggle with tremendous anxiety.
Yeah.
Which in turn leads to tremendous depression. And then we roll into suicidality and all of these other things that exacerbate, high emotion and things like that or whatever. And so I like to be very supportive, but I also like to be very realistic that disappointments are going to come. It's about how we handle it. That life, there is no playbook for life that says, this is going to happen. And then if that happens, then this next thing will definitely be the next step. Life does not do that. And right now, I think we all are under an umbrella of disappointment, having to pivot, having to shift, having to, micromanage ourselves, having to look at responsibilities and accountability internally differently. And so extending that out, I've had kids that have for the last couple of months now, they're like, I don't care if I catch COVID. I just want to see my friends, or I just can't stand to be in here, or those poor babies that are missing their graduations.
Yeah.
Or potentially will not start their first year of college on a college campus and things like that. Absolutely. My heart aches for them. And I understand that. But disappointment is a part of life. And I feel like the earlier we experience that and the earlier we learn to cope with that and to pivot and to manage change, then we are a little bit healthier. But there's an entire generation from the late 90s, early 2000s that have really struggled with that. And I don't know if that's because of over-parenting, under-parenting. There's a lot of parenting stuff involved in that, but there's also a lot of societal stuff. And I blame the internet for everything. Because the kids have access to everything. I had a client before who got in trouble and lost their phone privileges. And I knew they had lost the privilege because that was part of the discussion in the family session. Literally like hours later, and the parents were like, they're not getting this phone back. I'm getting a text from this kid. And I'm like, what happened? What's going on? Oh, I'm texting you from my laptop. Or I'm texting you from my, like they're setting up MySpace accounts and like they're reaching way back. But the internet tells us that we should not be disappointed. Honestly, it tells us that everyone wins, that no one fails, that no one has to pivot or recover or figure out a plan B. There's a lot out there that tells us that because they see influencers and they see people, even as adults. It's not just about the kids. I have grown women that I am talking to about limit your TikTok, limit your Instagram, limit your Snapchat, take time and reduce and pull back. And if you're triggered by Kim Kardashian's body and hair and stuff, stop going on her page, but these are real issues. And the internet is doing its job. The purpose is to keep us on, to keep us glued, to keep us fixated and fascinated, but there's a set of us that aren't able to handle that or manage that well. I've struggled with that, just wanting to know that I need to put the phone down because I'm looking at something and I'm like, golly, I'm not quite there yet, or I'm not quite doing what I need to do. But we learn to embrace where we are. I say this often, my soul journey is my own. I am singularly responsible for how I move through this life. And so I can't allow what I do or don't see happening for me to create this false sense of disappointment, like I'm not here yet, or I don't have this yet, but my friends do. And, we have to be content with where we are. We have to be content with what we have, because at the end of the day, there is still someone that has less. There is still someone that will never reach where many of us are. So disappointment is a part of life. And again, we become creative nowadays. So a lot of these kids that can't graduate at their schools, I see car lines where they're able to do this. I see dads building stages in their front yards and things like that. So I think there's also a beauty in that. I think there is something really special about, as parents, becoming more creative, as educators, therapists, all of these people that are healers and, work in the healing arts and fields and things like that. Become creative, because I think that also teaches kids, like, okay, if I can't do this way, let me figure out a more creative way to do it. And then you're creating entrepreneurship and all kinds of things, so disappointment happens. I don't think disappointment is avoidable, but I think we have to snap back from that as quickly as we can, because in turn that throws us into depression and anxiety, because we're in our head so much. It's not an easy thing, but over time it is something that can be managed. And when you're disappointed, you have to take a look at what it is that happened and figure out, is there something that I could have done to correct this? Can I do it different? Do I get a do-over? There's a lot of things that we have to break down, but I think we have to be real with ourselves when certain things happen, because everything isn't for us. So sometimes things are leaving us and we're holding on to them, or people are leaving us and we're holding on to them, and we're breaking our own heart. And that creates this level of, oh my God, I need this, I can't live without that. In reality, we just need food, water, and shelter. That's really, everything else is a plus.
That's it. I agree. And I think that, like, when I think about the conversations I've had with my kids, like, I try to help them, like, learn resiliency and learn the ability to bounce back from those things, because a lot of times, even friends, even myself, like, that disappointment gets you in a place where you want to stay there instead of bounce back and, like, move on to the next thing, or regroup and, change the plan. So I'm hoping that, like, in this season for all of us, like, it teaches us resiliency, and, like you said, to be more creative, to maybe do things in a different way. Maybe it's different than what we intended, but I'm, like, as far as you said with graduation, I'm loving these parades I've been seeing and different things. They've been doing that down here, but it's just like it's teaching us to make more of an effort too, I would say. But I know sometimes, like, with me in the past, disappointment could also lead to distress when I didn't manage it well. So a couple of things that I've noticed, because we're quarantined and we're in the home a lot, the past 2 months now, sometimes we're stuck in a toxic environment that we can't really remove ourselves from. So I'll give you an example. Some of my students, they are in homes where it's a lot of arguing, not much food. So it's a toxic environment, whereas they thrived in school because they had food on the regular. It was peaceful, they're around their friends, but now they're stuck at home. And I have, I'm sure there are people who are in abusive relationships or abusive homes, and now they may feel stuck. So I know, I guess we can call it a specialty. Some women that you've worked with have dealt with different abuse topics, different challenges like that in relationships. during this time, what are some things they could do? I mean, yes, there are shelters and things like that, but a lot of those are probably closed now, I'm assuming as well. So what can people do who are like stuck in a toxic environment, which is like causing them distress?
You know, especially when you're talking in terms of teenagers, they're so limited
Yeah.
in the ability to escape. Even adult women that, you know, we have all had these moments where we're just kind of sitting in things because we don't know how to get out, or we don't know that there is an out, or we've been convinced that we can't ever leave. And so we just kind of sit in it. But it's really hard for kids. And I thought about this, and I've had conversations with other people in mental health about, you know, kids that are involved in human trafficking, kids that are involved in domestic violence or in, you know, sexual trauma kind of situations and stuff like that. So one thing that I did for all of my middle and high school age kids is I set up a group text. I contacted their parents and I said, hey, can I, you know, are you okay with me putting them in a text with other kids that I treat, but their names will never be used. And when I talk directly to them in a group chat, I use their initials so they know I'm talking to them. And so what that has allowed them to do, one, they're connecting with other kids who's feeling the same overwhelmed or emotions, or at least they're connecting to other kids that may not be in the same situation as them, but it's another teenager that they're able to connect to. So we talk about playlists, we talk about Netflix, we share pictures of food we're cooking, of crafts that we're doing. And every now and then I'll send a message out and I'll be like, drop a GIF, let me see what's going on. And they send some of the craziest stuff. But it seems like it's always timely because I'm still seeing them. I'm still having sessions with them, you know, weekly or bi-weekly. So they still get that one-on-one with me. But the purpose of that was to give those kids that I know are having some extreme home life things an outlet that I can monitor and that I can every now and then drop in there and say, hey, have you checked your mood today? You know, how are you sleeping today? And things like that. So that's one thing that you can do. The other thing is, because we don't always know the level of safety that some of these kids are living under, or if people are checking their phones and checking their emails and things like that or whatever. So one thing that you can do is set up a safe word for them, you know, and say, hey, you know, I'm just checking in, and that kid will know this and keep it to a word that all the kids can have, but they don't all know they've got the same word or whatever. And if they can't get on the phone with you or really talk to you, they can just say pineapple. And then you'll know, okay, you know, or have different levels or different numbers that indicate how much distress are you in. But the most that you can do is check in with them, let them know that there are resources. Unfortunately, especially for Black and brown kids, calling the police is not the first choice or the first thought. So what I have done is told clients in the past, if you're in distress, call 911 and ask for an EMT, ask for an ambulance, because they'll get there before law enforcement. And so now you've got some people on the scene that are there for your direct care, your physical care, and even your emotional care. Or if they have to call law enforcement, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you can call a law enforcement officer and specifically ask for one that's trauma trained. You can ask for one that is trained in Baker Act placements and all of these things. You can even ask for, you know, I'm in a situation where I don't feel safe. Can you send a female officer? So there is some options that, you know, they have because they can't really go places, and transportation sometimes is an issue. You can give them links to online sources for suicide hotlines, for human trafficking hotlines and things like that, especially if they have access to social media or their phones or their laptops and tablets. So there's some things that you can do creatively, and also encourage them, if they write, encourage them to write. If they draw, encourage them to draw or paint. Encourage a lot of creativity right now, and you're going to get I painted all day yesterday. Well, paint with your eyes closed today. Paint with your feet, get creative, because kids just get tired quick and they're like, I don't want to do it, and many times I'm like, go find something on Netflix, or what are you watching, and let's watch it together and let's check in. So there's different things you can do to connect them. Unfortunately, you're still limited with what you can do physically to provide protection or whatever, but that's where, some of those other resources come in. But weekly or daily checks or whatever you can do that. And I'd keep a log, for you as an educator. I haven't heard from this person in a while. I haven't heard from that person in a while. I've been checking in. Give that back to your principal or director or whatever, so then they can also become involved, because they can do home visits if they have to, or that sort of thing, without breaking their confidentiality. You're just, saying that you're concerned.
Yeah, that's a great one. I love the way of encouraging them to do creative activities. For shoot, I even started painting myself. Yep. Like anything I can do to get my mind off of being in the house, I've started gardening. Yeah. And actually, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about something like coping mechanisms. So I know for me, I've really gotten into sound therapy. Mm-hmm. I do, like I said, painting, gardening, cooking, a lot of cooking. What else have I started doing? Like graphic design, where I just random stuff I've been making. I've been listening to a lot of music that's it's no lyrics to it, but it's sleep sounds and and stuff like that. Yeah. Sometimes I play that before sleep, because I will say, this is another thing I wanted to mention. I don't know about everybody else, but I've been having trouble sleeping. Yeah. I don't take naps in the day. I log on typically from 8:30 to 4:30, and then, dinner ready, all that stuff. But I'll get in bed around 10, 11, and I'll wake up at 3. That's what's going on. I try to go back to sleep, try to change positions, and I can't go to sleep. So I end up just kind of laying there, or I go on social media. So I'm trying to figure out how I can get back into a regular schedule. But I think for me, what it is I sit all day, and it's not used, because before I was walking around campus, right. And now I'm just sedentary all day. I mean, I jog in the evening, that's it. So that's another thing. But I just wanted to kind of talk about some things we can do to remove or reduce the anxiety, or get our minds off of the fact that we're home all day, every day, or how we can be more physical. Yeah, we can work out, but it's been raining a lot here. So, different in-home exercises are great, but I know for me, if my mood isn't where it needs to be, I have no energy to work out. I sit on the couch and just chill all day. If my mood and my mental ability is not there, I won't work out. So I need support in this too. What do I do to be better at this?
So this is and that's why I consistently check in about sleeping and about eating and things like that, because we got some bomb food stuff going on right now, recipes, and we're getting real creative with food, and that sort of thing. But sleep has been an issue. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was good because I was still a little bit in my regular sleep schedule. And I think we started quarantining probably about 3 weeks before everybody else did, or when it was announced that was happening, because my daughter has pre-existing respiratory stuff. And I was like, we're in the house. Right, so sleep was fine, get up, go to bed. And then the mindset became, I don't have clients until 11, so I can stay up till 2 o'clock, binge watching stuff and, just on my phone playing games or, in Facebook groups, watching Instagram and things like this. And so it started to change my sleeping patterns. So then I was like, okay, I'm sleeping. And then I found myself tired and taking naps during the day. So I increased, made sure I was taking my supplements, made sure that I'm taking, my vitamins, taking vitamins every day, taking, vitamin C or immunity stuff or whatever for a while there just to boost energy and things like that. Increased water, like we walk around and here, there's water cups everywhere in here. Water everywhere. So water helps. I've also posted online to people before to say, make sure you're taking water in and make sure water is hitting your body every single day. Because we tend to be like, oh, I'm just home and I don't need a shower. No, you need a shower every day. You need a shower every day because you don't want to be sitting there smelling yourself. That's one reason. But water helps to distress you. Water opens your cells and makes your body come alive again and things like that. So showers every day, making sure you're washing your hair, making sure, changing your sheets and washing towels and things like that more often right now is really good. Because we're in and out, that's one reason. But just because fresh sheets on the bed and things like that help you to sleep better. So other tools or things that we can use, like you were talking about, soundscapes and, things like that. I love the Calm app. I'm not one that tends to pay for in-app purchases, but I purchased that for the year. And after I did a 7-day free trial, it is amazing. So when I was having those breaks in sleep, I'll grab my earphones, put them in, and turn on. They have sleep meditations. And it was like a miracle to me when I'm like, it's 4:30 in the morning and Tara, my person on the app, is like, we're going to get you back to sleep. And I'm like, no, you're not, because this has been 3 days and I'm not sleeping. I put that stuff in my ear and get the sound going and get her to stretching me and relaxing me, and I wake up the next morning. Still, there are some days where I'm having breaks in sleep. Still, there are some days where I'm not resting. So I increase my meditation to twice a day. I meditate in the morning and I meditate at night before I go to bed. I burn essential oils every freaking day. Every day.
I love them.
Every day, and burning those helps to set the mood for my room, set dim lighting before you're going to bed. And honestly, don't go to bed until you're tired enough to go to bed, because sometimes we're just kind of conditioned to a bedtime. But go when your body is like, okay, let's go and go to sleep. Don't get on your phone. Don't turn on your TV. Because the light and the flashing of that, and your phone knows when it's on, or it's really weird, put your phone face down, turn off your volume for alerts and things like that. That kind of stuff helps. Of course, yoga, stretching, that sort of thing, or reading books, because sometimes we get bored, or we just, reading really calms you and relaxes you. But I just don't recommend, like, anytime within 30 minutes of going to bed to an hour, just get off of your social media, because what's happening is your brain is just stimulated. And you got to remember, physically, we know how we feel when we're tired. But if we're on the phone and now we have all this eye stuff going on and our brain is like message, and it takes a minute to calm us down. And if you wake up in the middle of the night, don't look at the clock. It is the hardest thing to, don't look at the clock. If you wake up, just lie there. And I mean, seriously, I'll turn my phone on to turn on my Calm app. I will not look up at that bar where the time is or anything. I go straight to that app. I don't turn lights on. So there's things like that that'll help you. But I think the biggest help is to making sure that our brain and our mind and our spirits are calm beforehand. Don't get into really excited conversations with your friends or your partners and things like that before bedtime. Just kind of set a routine that's going to allow you to wind down and make sure that you got a good airflow to your space. That all of those things are important. Make sure you're sleeping in clothing that is comfortable and, that sort of thing. I'm a big sager and all that stuff. So when things feel real crazy, we're pulling out sage and holy palo santo and burning incense and things, because also we have to be mindful. Our sleeping spaces need to be clean. Yeah. Clean up y'all rooms, clean your rooms. Wash dirty clothes, don't have piles of stuff around. All of that stuff holds energy and just the flow, and it just interrupts flow in your room. So those are the things that I would recommend, just little hacks, sound, oils burning, clean sheets, loose fitting pajamas or tighter fitting pajamas, that sort of thing. But definitely be mindful too of what you're eating and what you're drinking during the day. You can't, it's weird. I can't drink wine before I go to bed now because I'm home. When I was working and leaving the house more, a glass of wine wasn't bothering me before bedtime. Now I'm just like, no, I'm not, unless it's the weekend and I know I don't have to get up the next day or something for work or just moving around. So I think we have to watch how much of alcohol we're intaking. And for some of us, anything else that we're intaking, create a balance in that too, because overdoing anything will start to affecting you and how you sleep.
Yeah, I love that. And as we kind of tie in everything together, yes, we're home, but there are so many ways, like we've been discussing in this episode, that we can cope with that. But something just was put on my heart just now, like for people who are people and they love being around people and now they're isolated from people, I encourage you to do things like this, like through Zoom. A friend of mine, he had a virtual wing night with his boys every Thursday. And I said, I love that. And a friend of mine, we had like a happy hour virtually on Zoom for her birthday. So we all had our wine and stuff, but we were just chatting it up virtually, same way we would be if we were in person. Mm-hmm. So like, there are ways you can still feel connected without being physically in the same space. So I encourage, like, for those who are, because that's how I am, like I love people, I'm a hugger and all that stuff. So it's been tough, like, to not be around people and my students and stuff, but I FaceTime them all the time. I see my nephews on FaceTime all the time, so that's been helping. So I just encourage those who are maybe struggling with that isolation to, video chat your friends or go for a walk, and you'll see people walking around if you just feel like you haven't seen anybody. Because for those who live alone, like I do, it's very challenging. Because like if you have kids or if you're in a relationship or something, you have someone you see every day, you communicate with them. But if you're home by yourself, it's like, I mean, I hope you're not talking to yourself. But it's like, you don't have anybody to kind of like bounce ideas off of or communicate with, so it can be hard. So I just encourage you to use all these different apps that we have just to stay connected. So I now want to turn it over to Sherri, because I know after watching this, you guys love her like I do. So if you guys are in need of extra support, whether it be life coaching or therapy sessions, males and females, like whatever the case may be, I encourage you to reach out to her. So Sherri, I just wanted you to share like how they can reach you, what services you offer, and anything you have going on right now with Becoming.
So let me see, the best way to reach me is through my website, and that is iambecomingfree.com. And there's a contact page there, and it allows you to choose therapy, coaching, or other, but there's also a box for messages. So, if you're like, just, I need to talk to someone about this or whatever, my first session that I give potential clients is free. So they can literally reach out to me and I'll help them to determine, do you need therapy? Do you need coaching? that sort of thing. We're all dealing with collective anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
So we're all feeling it. We are just managing it or not managing it in different ways. So one thing that I pride myself on is being very creative with interventions, but also being very honest with people about where they are and just kind of what their goals or their path towards healing needs to look like. So traditionally, I am not one of those people that if you're coming to me and looking and thinking, oh, she's going to, therapize me, as one of my clients calls it, or automatically say I need therapy. No, we all need something, and so life coaching is also that option. I coined myself as a freedom coach. So that is life coaching, but we are trying to get free. So that freedom is financial freedom, emotional freedom, freedom from stress, work-life transitional freedoms and things like that or whatever. So it really depends on what people feel like they need. And they can just reach out to me for free and we can have a conversation and talk about what it is that I feel like they would, need best. And sometimes I have recommended folks go elsewhere other than to me because I feel like it may not be a good connection for them, or they may need something different than what I offer, because I know I'm not for everybody. And that's okay, but I want people to heal. I want people to feel better and to get what they need. So if they contact me through my website, that'll automatically come to me by email. And online, there's going to be other things on my business website that we're going to be offering in the way of workshops online and different things that I'm planning that are coming up. And just, ways to just kind of keep the connections going for people and just be, like my mother used to say, a present help, I guess, for folks, when they're feeling like they're struggling, because we all need someone. But I think a lot of times people don't reach out because they're afraid that there's going to be judgment, or they're afraid that they're not ready and they're going to be pushed to readiness and things like that. A free phone call doesn't cost anything, and you can have that call with me and never contact me again. I'm not going to be sending you emails and updates and stuff like that. So the best way is through the website, IamBecomingFree.com, and just send me a message and then we take it from there. And I am working right now, and I hopefully will have it done by Monday, working on new coaching specials and things like that or whatever. So, and my prices tend to be pretty decent. And I also work with people, with pricing, but I do work with people based on how the spirit leads me. Let's not get it twisted, because I am a business.
About that, because I know people who could benefit from counseling. Just as a quick FYI, I'm a huge advocate for counseling. I've done counseling, not straight, but maybe for 4 years, in different times. But I love it. It's so refreshing. But I know people won't pursue it because they think, oh, it's too expensive, or oh, this, or oh, that. But let me just say, ladies, you will pay hundreds of dollars for your hair products, for your hair stuff. Fellas, you will pay hundreds of dollars for the new sneakers that just came out, or for the new video game, or the PlayStation system. Like, let's kind of reprogram how we view necessities, because your mental wellness literally impacts every other area of your life. So if you're not making an effort to invest in that, then the rest of that stuff doesn't even matter, because you can put on, the lace fronts, you can put on, the kinky curly cluster, whatever it is your money goes to. But at the end of the day, if you're empty inside and you're not getting that emotional release and support and healing that you need, it's not going to make a difference. You're still going to be sad. You're still going to feel like you're not where you want to be. So I just had to plug that in, because I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I don't have the money for that. But as you heard, Sherri, the first session is free. There are other places where you can get your insurance to cover. Like, there's so many options to make the excuse of, oh, I don't want to pay for it. So I just had to say that.
No, but that you're right, and that's a very good point. We will invest in things, and what I always find really interesting and actually peculiar is how many parents will bring their children to me, and I'm looking at the parent like, oh, it's not the kid that needs to be seeing me. The parent needs to be here. But it's, oh no, fix them. They're this and they're that. And I'm like, but they live in the same environment with you. And I see what's happening here. And I see, all of this stuff that's going on, so it's very important for parents to meet their own needs first, because you would be amazed at what a healthy parent can do for a household. Is a healthy mom can change a whole community and a world, so I think we have to stop with this narrative that therapy is for crazy people, or people going, I don't want to tell nobody my business. And I'm going to say this, Black and brown people, y'all need to do better, because we're coming into therapy, and I'm seeing that. And I love the fact that probably about 85% of my practice right now is Black women. Loving it. But we need to see the men, because what's happening is we're seeing where people are unhealed, and on both sides, whether it's male or female, you're creating these toxic relationships, you're birthing toxic babies, you're creating toxic homes and things like that. And again, we're still dealing with this mass of people that don't know how to cope with disappointment, don't know how to cope with life change. There are people sitting right home now that have access to people like yourself, or people like yourself that can connect them to people like me, and out of embarrassment, out of trauma, so many reasons they won't reach out. And so what I would say in those situations is just make the first call, and it's hard. But if you have someone that's kind of pushing you and encouraging you, make that first call. If it's not to me, get on therapyforblackgirls.com and find a therapist. Get on Psychology Today and find a therapist. There's places where you can access treatment in life coaching, and nobody has to know your business if you don't tell it. So, and our job is to not be telling your business either. So we have to change the narrative about what therapy looks like and what healing looks like, because part of the suffering that I see in our community holistically is because we are so unhealed, we're untreated, and we're masking that with unhealthy relationships, raising toxic babies because some of y'all kids are not good, and some of the parents are not good. And that's a whole other podcast, a whole other conversation. But we have to get real with what is going on and our role in the fact that so much is not changing around us, because sometimes we're the common denominator. So just make a phone call. You can call me and say, I don't want you, but can you tell me where to go? I sure will, but you don't have reasons to not do what you need to do. One of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is, for the lack of knowledge, people perish. And so if you're not educating yourself or learning things or knowing what you need to know to get the information that you need, you are becoming complicit in your own misery.
Oh, another question. Was it pride comes before a fall?
Yeah.
Like, your pride is going to keep you from getting help. You got to check that pride at the door. Like,
yeah,
you can't let that deter you from growing and healing, for sure.
No, and it's necessary, and we all have to do that, because when we do more healing, we blame less. We do less blaming. We love ourselves more. We love our children more. We love our families more. We love our community and our world more. There's a definite trickle-down effect to healing and to getting better and to feeling better about yourself.
Yes. Oh, this felt like church today. Well, I just want to say this episode was everything I was hoping it would be. So thank you so much for speaking to us. Like I said, I'm going to add Sherri's information, her contact information at the bottom. This is going to be posted on YouTube, so I'm going to add it at the bottom. Please share this. I know we're coming to the end of the month, but please share this. Someone needs to hear this. All this information and resources and tips and tricks. Please, please, please share. The next episode will be posted next month, so stay tuned for that. But if you have any questions or comments, add them at the bottom, and then I'll relay them to Sherri, and then we can kind of communicate about what you're questions are and what's coming up as you're processing all this information. So thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.